Good morning. We're going to talk about Boxplots, learning the introduction to Boxplots. This will be on page 54 of your note spiral. Boxplots are probably the most important graph in all of AP statistics. The College Board likes to ask lots of questions about them. And quite frankly, they're not used a whole lot, or you don't see them a whole lot before then. Supposedly you're introduced to them in middle school, but I've found that that's not always the case. So, but for AP Stats, this is the most important graph. It's very easy to use, very easy to understand. So, first off, a box plot is a visual representation of the 5-number summary. And that's what came up on your calculator when we did a stat calc 1-bar stat. And basically, all that means is it shows the lowest value, the first quartile, or Q1, the median, which is the second quartile, or Q2, the third quartile, 75% of the data, and the highest value, or the maximum. So basically, we have a lowest, first quartile, the median, the third quartile, and the max. We'll also learn in the next video after this one how to use Boxplots to calculate outliers. All right, so we're just going to quickly go through some questions. And the first question is identify the highest value. And that's very easy, just looking at it. The highest value is 35 right there. Identifying the lowest value is 26. The median is 29. That's the middlemost value right here. Find the range. Well, that's 35 minus 26, the lowest minus the highest. Q1, or first quartile, is at 28. The third quartile is at 32. The next question asks for the interquartile range. Well, first off, the interquartile range is just Q3 minus Q1, or the third quartile minus the first quartile. So in this case, it'd be 32 minus 28. So the IQR is 4, or the interquartile range is 4. 75% of the data are above what value? Well, above what value? 75% are above the first quartile, so 75% are above 28. 50% of the data are between which values? List all possible combinations. Well, the lowest value to the middle value is 50%. So 26 to 29 would be my first 50%. 50% of the values are also located between 28 and 32, because that's each one of those represents a quartile. That's the middle 50%. And then the upper 50% is going to be the median to the max value, which in this case is 29 to 35. The next question is a trick question. It asks you to find the mean. And from a box plot, you are unable to find the mean. It's impossible to do. You can get the median, but you cannot. There's no way to calculate the mean just based on a box plot graph. All right, moving on to page 55. Again, identify the highest value. Well, in this case, it looks like it's 35. Identify the lowest value. Well, in this case, it's 25. The median, about 32. The range, 35 minus 25, or 10. The IQR, again, Q3, which is 33, minus Q1, which is 29, so another IQR of 4. Now the tricky part. How small or large would a value need to be considered an outlier? So if we look at the bottom of page 54, we see that Q1, or first quartile, minus 1.5 times the IQR. Well, Q1 is 29. So 29 minus 1.5, and our IQR was 4. So 29 minus 1.5 times 4, 29 minus 6 gives us 23. So if we had had an outlier, it would have to be a value less than 23. If the value is 23, it's not an outlier, okay? So when we say X is less than 23, we establish a fence. Anything beyond the fence is an outlier. So less than 23 is an outlier. On the upper side, It's the third quartile plus 1.5 IQRs. Our third quartile is 33 plus 1.5 times 4. That gives me 39. So if we'd had a value that was greater than 39, it would have been an outlier. If it equals 39, it is not an outlier. The next thing is the data skewed? And if I look at this, there's a whole lot of data between 32 and 35. 50% of the data is between 32 and 35, and the lower 50% is more spread out. So this looks like it's been stretched to the left. So this is going to be skewed to the left. All right? And that's for the A through G problem. The next problem, identify the highest value. Approximately 20. The lowest value is about -5. Identify the median, about 2. Find the range. Once again, 20 minus a -5. Be careful about the double negative, so that's 25. Identify the IQR. Well, that's basically going to be Q3, which is about 11, minus a -1. So IQR of about 12. So the fence would be -5. Excuse me, I said that wrong. -1 minus 1.5 times 12. The -1 being Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR. So if we had a value less than -19, it would be an outlier. If it were -19, it's not an outlier. The next one for the upper side, well, Q3 is approximately at 11. So Q3 plus 1.5 IQRs, or 11 plus 1.5 times 12. And that gives us a value of 39. So if we had a value above 39, we would have an outlier. 39 itself is not an outlier. So in this case, we have no outliers. In this case, it looks like I have a bunch of values from -5 to about 2. 50% of the values are -5 to 2, and then it's stretched in the other direction. The upper 50% is stretched out. So this is the upper, since the upper is stretched, this is going to be skewed to the right because it's been stretched to the right. I'm going to pause the video for just a second. Try to. Okay, hopefully we got back. We're on page 55. So in this case, this graph right here, 50% of the data is between -5 and +2. So it's kind of bunched together, where the other is more spread out. So this is skewed to the right. So the data is skewed to the right. Okay. Next page, page 56. For which value of the data is 50% of the values larger and 50% smaller? That is the definition of the median. 50% are greater than or equal to 28, and 50% are less than or equal to 28. What is the range of the data in the given graph? It looks like about 35 minus 25, so about 10. A box and whisker plot gives a picture of the test scores on a recent math test. All right, so here are our score, here's our box plot. Using a box and whisker plot above, answer the following questions. All right. True or false? We know that the class average was an 80. And the answer to that is false. The median is 80, but we don't know what the mean is. We don't know what the average is because the box plot does not present the average or mean. True or false? We know half of the students made less than an 80. 50% made an 80 or less, 50% made an 80 or more. So that is true. True or false? We know that the lowest grade in the class was a 45. That may be the lowest mark, but the lowest grade was a 50. If there had been outliers, you would have chosen the outlier, but in this case, the lowest grade is 50, so that's false. True or false? We know that at least half of the class passed the test. Well, 80% is a passing score, and we know that 50% of the class made an 80 or better. So consequently, yes, it's true. We know that half the class, at least half the class, made an 80 or better. True or false? We know that the difference between the highest and lowest score was 55. Well, the highest score was a 95, the lowest score was a 50, so that difference or the range happened to be 45, so that is false. True or false? 50% made a B or better. Well, the cutoff for a B is 80%, so 80% or more made greater than a B. We also know that 50% made lower than a B, but 50% made higher than a B. Okay? And in the next video, we'll actually practice creating box plots. Thank you.